The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Baseball season is heating up on PrizePicks, and you know baseball is a special place in my Heartfoot clan. Step up to the plate with PrizePicks and add your favorite baseball players to your lineup. Whether it's strikeouts or RBIs, playing more or less gives you a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash, and you can even mix and match player projections from different sports too. You know all summer I've been taking the over on Tariq Skubal's strikeouts and cashing in. Download the app today and use code DFS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the app today and use the code DFS. PrizePicks, run your game.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Bada bing, bada boom. We are back. It is Friday, July 25th on the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew 55 himself Betz.
This is just going to be a great show. I know it. And the reason I know it is because A, we have some pretty good guests. But B, Kyle, I'm looking in the mirror today, dude. I logged on. I mean, imagine logging off, but I logged on and we're wearing the exact same t-shirt. Thank goodness this is not a video podcast because
Real
one of us
cool
would have
stuff.
we would have had to have changed. But Kyle did not plan this. We were wearing the same t-shirt. And so the only thing that's going to happen on today's show is obviously greatness. So I'm excited, man.
It wasn't planned to do a plug for shopballers.com, but I feel like this is the time because Betz and I know you're just hearing our beautiful voices. We are wearing some 55 t-shirts, which we have a lot of company t-shirts at this point. And if you want to get one of those, shopballers.com, right before the season, go for it. On this episode, some would say it is our penultimate episode. Is that a number or is that like it's the best? I can't remember.
You're asking the wrong guy.
Gosh, I'll look it up. I feel like I just gave out a number. Like it's our 150th episode. It's like that's not what I meant. I meant it's like kind of our best one. Oh, penultimate is the last but one in a series of things, the second to last. It is not our penultimate episode.
You just broke the news, Kyle. The show's over, basically.
It did make it sound like I do believe that this is our penultimate episode before we go to August. That's a thing.
There you go. Nailed it.
This is a best ball cheat codes episode where we get to ask people around the industry what this year stands out and what are some strategies that you can use that is allowing you to be different than the field, especially in big tournaments. So we have some heavy hitters on this podcast, and we will follow up and give two of our own that we've been using, and hopefully, like some of the cheat codes, I'm realizing that like these are really smart people in the industry, and there's some overlap of what I've been doing too. So I can't tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing that we're also doing the same thing.
It's a good thing, right? The collective, better than one person. So if multiple people are doing this, it has to work, certainly. No, man, this is going to be great. Lots of really smart people on the show today to hopefully help you and I learn as well as everybody else. And I went back to last year's show and looked at a couple of cheat codes that were given out. Lots of love for the Bengals running backs. So if you dip your toes in those ambiguous waters, huge hit with Chase Brown. There was also a lot of discussion on this wide receiver ADP, questioning like, is this right? When we were drafting, the wide receiver 60, like in the 7th round or something like that last year. So obviously every year is different. This is a new game we're playing every year with new ADP landscapes, new information from the year before and all those things. So I think today is going to be great. I am very excited for it.
I love that part of DFS and best ball that I understand the overall rules of how to play this. Think about it like a board game. I know how to play this, but the actual set of data and the ADP that we work with every year is different. The situation's different. Teams change. And so we have to adjust. I can't just use what worked in last year's strategy. We talk about that all the time. So We will go through that in our cheat codes. If you want all of our rankings, you can get them in the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus. Our best ball rankings are updated. Our season-long player props, we're continuing to fire away at those in the Discord. So if you are a person that's the UDK Plus or you are a Foot Clan Premier member, then you get access to those channels and you get alerted whenever Betz throws out a prop. That's really valuable for in-season because in-season, week to week, things change where we look at certain projections and on a Wednesday, we're saying, hey, we really like this line, and then the line is gone later on in the day or later on Thursday. So make sure you're a part of that ultimatedraftkit.com. I did want to start us off with a quick question, and I'm calling it the beat report bounce because we are getting a lot of different opinions from what happened at practice. So players in shorts, here's my opinion, or here's how they looked. On the Dynasty episode this week, Betz and I talked with Jason about how to approach training camp. You wrote a monster article that we went through last week on the show, but training camp, we need to realize that just because we have a ton of access from beat reporters doesn't mean that their opinion or talent evaluation should be the same. We shouldn't apply that of this guy looked really, really good when who's he playing against? It's against his own team. It's, in a red zone drill, whatever else it is. We have to understand the context. So this first one, and I'm going to quote these people because they're doing their job and they're just reporting what they see. I will be that person on Saturday for Falcons training camp, just firing off the tweets about how Kyle Pitts looks.
I mean, if you don't think my notifications are going to be on for when @Kyle_Borg tweets, you got another thing coming. So I'll be excited to see what's going on in Falcons camp, man. I mean, they're saying this could be the year. That's what they're saying, Kyle.
They are saying that. I also think it's a chance for my brother and myself, Will Borgo, to start a new account for the Falcons, Borg Bros. I feel like that could work.
Hey, tweet that out. Get some followers, subscribers.
We're going to be reporting live from Falcons training camp on a Saturday. What could be more beautiful in Flowery Branch, Georgia? All right, this first one is from David Newton, who covers the Panthers. He said, Bryce Young is looking sharp today with a lot of short to intermediate passes. But my question, because we have seen good stuff about the Panthers and we love that they outfitted him with Tet McMillan. My question is, because the success of the team was basically bent on Chuba running the ball, even though they didn't have that many plays, do you think they get more pass happy this year? And if so, I feel like there's somebody other than Tet McMillan, who I have been drafting, that is probably undervalued and might be Adam Thielen, but I'm anticipating this team to want to throw the ball a little bit more.
I'm always a big fan of just following what the roster moves suggest. And now we have back-to-back off seasons of significant investment in the pass-catching group for Bryce Young. Obviously, last year, the Deontay Johnson saga was a complete train wreck, but they brought in Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette. Jalen Coker's a nice hit as an undrafted guy. This year, what do? Everybody says they're going to take an edge rusher at 8th overall. They take a wide receiver. So clearly the game plan right now or the philosophy in the environment in the room is we have to make sure Bryce Young works out for us, and we're going to give him the best chance to do that. So I don't know that they're going to necessarily move away from the run or anything like that, but I think they're going to slowly put more and more on Bryce Young's plate. After he got off to a terrible start last year, he showed a lot of nice things down the stretch. We've talked about that. So we'll see if that continues moving forward. But yeah, I'm with you. Still, this defense, year to year, that can be fluky, but on paper, at least, when you look at everybody's preseason projections, still not great there in Carolina. So they could be forced into a bunch of shootouts. And obviously, that would be exciting for T-Mac, Bryce Young, and anybody else he brings along for the ride.
I wanted to throw this out next one about Luther Burden, who hasn't practiced in almost 2 months, dealing with the hamstring. Yeah. Ben Johnson was quoted as saying, we're very hopeful he'll be ready to go day one. He has a soft tissue that he was dealing with there in the springtime, and it lingered. It's day to day. Hopefully we'll get out there. Is Luther Burden, his ADP has continued to fall where he's outside of the top 100. He was inside, a month or two ago. Is this bad news, or is he now at a spot where it's okay, well, his ADP bakes in the risk?
Yeah, I think, Luther Burden, the play, in my opinion, for best ball is not week 1 and week 2, right? You're kind of hoping you get this late season trajectory for the rookie. So honestly, this is one where it doesn't change a lot for me in best ball. Obviously, like you prefer these guys to be out there and making highlight reel grabs in training camp and all these things. I do think because of the fact that he has missed mini camp, now the start of training camp, and essentially anything on field related for the last couple of months he has not been a part of, he is going to start the season almost certainly down on the depth chart. But the thing is, we don't draft best ball for week one, obviously, right? So Ricky Pearsall, for crying out loud, last year was like one of the guys you needed in week 17, right? And he did basically nothing for the first 3 quarters of the year. So yeah, if there's like a huge dip in ADP discount, like on DraftKings, he still has the Q tag, I'll snag some Luther Burden for sure, especially because I thought earlier in the process, right after the NFL draft, it kind of happens with rookies anyway, he was way overvalued in ADP, and I think now it's at a sweet spot, and if it's going to continue to fall, if you haven't gotten shares yet, I think now is a good time to do so.
Yeah, I've gone from like, I don't know about the Bears to, man, maybe they're undervalued. Like right now, Caleb went down 2, he's at 109, Burden's at 115, Colston Lum's at 127. It's just like there's cheaper stacking options. If you did get a Dunze or DJ Moore early, it's very easy to tack that on later, knowing that everybody else is stacking up Caleb with those guys, but Burden's fallen. All right, I have some Chiefs questions real quickly, and we'll just kind of go these, one by one. But Andy Reid said, quote, that Travis Kelce is felt right now. It's one of my favorite words to be able to say. He looks like he's 20. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he's saying he's doing a great job. He's in great shape, best shape of his life, blah, 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 blah. Are we undervaluing Kelce to have a difference-making tight end season?
Man, imagine in August, or July, I guess, not being in the best shape of your life. Could not be me, Kyle. So yeah, of course he's looking great. It's funny. The whole thing with Travis Kelce last year, the conversation in best ball and fantasy was like, well, he's getting older. They're obviously going to limit his reps and just make sure he's ready for the postseason. And in the back of my mind, I think that was actually what they wanted to do, but Rashee Rice got hurt, Hollywood Brown got hurt, and they kind of had to just play him his normal amount. I think that they will probably do their best to manage his reps, but the thing is, last year, he was still among the league leaders in red zone targets, and he was actually an underperformer in the touchdown department. So if you think that he keeps that role, I think he's going to have plenty of touchdown weeks and sometimes 2 touchdown weeks and things like that, where, he goes around pick 100 right now. And I think that's a fair price for a guy that, honestly, on Underdog, half PPR, you're just hunting for touchdowns most of the time anyway. And there's a good chance that some of those looks are going to go to Travis Kelce, especially considering the uncertainty at running back right now in Kansas City, that I actually have taken more Kelce than I thought I would have. It's more of a tough sell for me on DK. I think he's like in the late 70s over there, where you need PPR reception volume. But yeah, when we're looking for touchdowns anyway, half PPR, pick 100. I think that's a fair price.
He led all tight end and red zone targets this past year, yet he finished with 3 red zone touchdowns. That's not going to stay the same
there you go.
Year to year. So the Chiefs running backs, they've had a lot of different guys work with the first team. Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Elijah Mitchell, and then, quote, with a sprinkling of Brashard Smith, who is the rookie, the 7th rounder. He's worked at wide receiver. A lot of people like him as a late dart throw. How are you handling his backfield? Because I have been taking Pacheco, but not a lot of the other guys.
I think he's the obviously, favorite to win the starting job, and ADP reflects that. The other guys are, man, these are tough. Like, so you got Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, Elijah Mitchell, and then you have the rookie, Brashard Smith, who is a former wide receiver, converted running back, I believe 7th round pick, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to roll into the season with these 4, presumably. I think there's a possibility they only have 3 active on game days. Who knows right now, man? They're all sketchy clicks, in my opinion. I think Pacheco is a fine, previously would have been kind of a dead zone pick in ADP landscape, but the dead zone's kind of not really a thing anymore because these guys are all so cheap that I've mixed him in as part of Chiefs stacks, or if I need a Chiefs, player on a Denver team or something like that. But I'm really not going out of my way to take these guys, especially the ancillary pieces, until we get more information on what this looks like in training camp. It's kind of a running bit in Chiefs camp that there's always kind of a day 3 rookie that we get excited about that's going to be on the first team, like Darwin Thompson a couple years ago and guys like that. So let's just pump the brakes and wait and see on what shakes out here. I'm not really adjusting to this, if you even want to call it news.
Yeah, I made the point on the Dynasty podcast, when you see somebody running with the first team or running with the ones, and they'll say stuff about during install, that means that they're literally teaching this player, here's how this works with the team. Let me show you how Patrick Mahomes runs this play. And you're introducing it that way. Or often a player will be out there on certain packages, when they're in 12 personnel, or, they're running 4 wide receivers. Look, he's with the first team. It's like, yes, they want to give this player who's young and talented experience, but it does not mean that he is the first string person up there. So the terminology and the context is really important when you're seeing one random tweet and you see first team. Let's go to the Chargers. This is a big one. Jim Harbaugh said that Najee Harris is healing and doing everything he can to get back on the field. Harbaugh says he doesn't know if Harris will be back for training camp. And then at some point he said he's praying for his healing. Respect that, Jim. If you want to make sure Najee's okay. But we do have some questions. What is going on? Please tell me.
Everybody has questions. Yes, it has been weeks since the Najee 4th of July incident happened. Obviously he's been to multiple hospitals for different treatments and evaluations. He's allegedly in LA at Chargers camp, but nobody has a photo or video proof of this. So who knows? I will say the longer this lingers, the more skeptical I am that this is not a big deal. In other words, I think it could be a bigger deal than is being led on. And there's a couple factors here, I think, from like a ripple down effect of what this means. Like, if Najee, let's say, returns to practice tomorrow, okay, fine, not a huge deal, whatever. But like, if it's 3 weeks from now and he's like just starting to get installed with this new offense, he has no legs to stand on with his coaching staff. Granted, you can translate running back performance somewhat easily team to team, but like, he doesn't know these offensive linemen. He's never played with Justin Herbert. Like, there's all these kind of ripple down effects of like, does he even enter week 1 as the quote unquote starter? That was kind of the presumption that we all had like 2-3 weeks ago before this injury happened. All I'm saying is, if you want Amari Hampton on your teams, you better get him right now, because he is headed on a rocket ship to basically like the middle to early part of the 3rd round. I've been in some drafts recently on DK where he still falls to like late 3rd, but I saw him in one this morning go at the back of the 2nd. So his ADP will adjust very quickly. Everybody is watching the situation closely. So if you are underweight Omarion Hampton, make sure that you are getting your shares now, because if this lingers any longer, like I said, he's just going to go way, way higher than he is right now.
I'm surprised that we don't have anybody from maybe the fantasy community, the internet, life, that has not infiltrated this camp and gotten a picture of this man. How?
Where are you? Like, so where would you take Najee right now? Because it feels like catching the falling knife, right?
Yeah,
where would you take him?
So I have a Charger stack. I'm drafting a team, and he kept falling. Somebody took him right in front of me, but he was falling to the spot of like 125, 130, where just nobody wanted to take him, and that's going to happen in certain drafts, and I'm totally fine with that. It's basically, I need him to fall right now a round and a half to 2, and I have a lot of Chargers. I have a lot of Justin Herbert. That team had Justin Herbert and Ladd, so I'm trying to take it more as like a team approach and not so much as like a one-off guy.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. For me, I think I need to have him to fall further. I'm sketched out by this, man. Like, and like, what happens, right? Like, let's say he does all of a sudden in a week return to practice and we find out it's fine. Do you think he like skyrockets back up boards? I don't. Like, I kind of feel like the shine is worn off of like the contingent upside play of Najee's situation, or like standalone value, that even if he returns to practice in a week or two, you're going to have plenty of time to like catch back up if you even want to on Najee. So like, for me, I'm letting him fall and I'm waiting to see what happens.
It's a zone where I don't like taking a lot of these running backs, like going right ahead of him. Ramondre Stevenson, Zach Charbonnet, Cam Scattaboo, J.K. Dobbins is now all the way up there at 110, Tyrone Tracy. These are all guys going right after pick 100 that I'm not trying to build my roster around anyway. So I agree with you. I don't think his ADP will rise very much. And maybe there's a point where he's a value if nothing happens, right? Like if there's nothing else going on, then that's somebody that I want because I want Chargers on my team. Going to the Browns real quick, couple more. Coach Kevin Stefanski said it's fair to say Jerome Ford is the team's top running back right now. Betz and I peel back the curtain. had a little tiff, little fight about the Browns,
This
man.
fight.
And you know what? It happens in friendships, but it was one of those things where one morning we were talking about what do we do with the Browns running backs in their ADP, and I said, I don't know if I want people to get Browns, and Betz was saying on the other side, like, but we got to adjust, and we kind of went back and forth about it.
Yeah, this one's interesting because I'll let you share your side of the thing here.
Former
but let's just,
Mr. Jerome Ford over here.
For the record, I gave Kyle a bloody nose when we were having this conversation. For me, like, I get the team expectation is quite low, obviously. The touchdown expectation could not be lower.
It's poo-poo caca.
But the thing is, like, we need to remember that we cannot predict the NFL season, and nobody can. And I'm just going to put this out there. Tajay Spears did absolutely nothing last year. He was the running back 1 in the fantasy playoffs. So, like, if a weird thing happens where all of a sudden
He did not
Dylan
help
Sampson,
you get to the playoffs, though.
No, but in a unique environment tournament, if you had him on a team and you ended up somehow getting there with him on your roster,
yes,
he was a low-rostered piece in the fantasy playoffs that nobody had. Now, obviously, nobody's projecting Dylan Sampson to be the running back 1 in December, but what if this Judkins situation just lingers, and the suspension's longer than you think or whatever, like, and your build is that you need some usable weeks early in the season. Jerome Ford in the 170s or wherever he's going, how bad could that really be, right? Like, that's my point. So I'm kind of in line with ADP as like a neutral stance on these guys. But I will say, like, if we get 2 more weeks into August and like the Judkins situation is still not resolved, these players, Sampson and Ford, their prices are only going to keep going up. Meanwhile, Judkins is falling very, very quickly. So I think they're fine where they go. Obviously, they're not players that you're like super thrilled to click, but it's in a best ball setting where you're not predicting the weeks that they have usable weeks. I think they're totally fine clicks right now where they're at. That might not be the way I feel in 2 weeks if they're up, another 2 rounds or something. But I think right now, if let's say you take somebody early on that you're not really expecting to be super great right out of the first week of the season, that's kind of a nice mismatch in my opinion, or a archetype match, or I should say rather. So I think in that aspect they're fine. I think you are on the other side where you're just like, don't even bother.
I know early in the season that they're underdog in every game possible. And so I'm basically hoping that he gives me usable weeks at the beginning of the year, but the running backs that I definitely drafted ahead of him, my first 2 or 3, I hope give me more points than Jerome Ford. Uncle Jerome was a fixture of this podcast 2 years ago when he was left for dead, and he was a great win rate player. I just don't think that, and maybe it's a player take, maybe it's, but I just look at the other running backs going this range. It's like, I want Austin Eckler. I want Jalen Wright. I want players on better offenses. I want Will Shipley. I want Marshawn Lloyd, who I obviously am addicted to. It's like, I'm building with those players more. So that's part of it. And this last one, I just had to end on this. It's from Jordan Schultz. It says, Keenan Allen has drawn interest from multiple teams in recent weeks. Allen is waiting to get a clearer picture of each team's wide receiver situation. His agent sent this, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, thank goodness we got something, right? Because if you've been taking Keenan, like, it was starting to approach Will Fuller from a few years ago territory where I'm like, does this guy even play football this year? So, I mean, if you need a wide receiver late or you just want to play the ADP closing line value game with him, it's fine. I'm kind of waiting to see what shakes out here with Keenan as far as that goes, but thankfully we got something on him because it was looking quite sketchy there for a minute.
You put some more respect in your mouth, sir, for a future Hall of Famer Keenan Allen.
They just let anybody in the Hall of Fame now or what?
All I know is if he joins a team, now there's a couple teams I will never buy the jersey of, but pretty much wherever he goes, I am on board, baby. Let's go.
There's going to be one jersey sale this year and it's going to be you.
It's just amazing that all over the years, like, he's been the dude. He's been the dude. I'm looking right to the right of me. Signed jersey, Keenan Allen right next to me. I just love him. I just love him so much. I'm just so proud of him for having multiple teams interested in him, according to his agent. It's great. All right, let's take a quick break and then talk about the cheat codes.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Best Ball Bonanza.
We have formed an elite group of people to help you guys take down a tournament. And these cheat codes from people from around the industry, some of them are player takes, some of them are roster construction, some of them are more just ideas and research-based stuff. Betz and I will get to ours at the very, very end. But we hope that this can give you, a perspective of there's lots of people out there, people that we read their stuff. Like Betz and I actually read what they have, and we think that they have a lot of good things. So the first person we're going to start off with is Justin Herzig, who, depending on who you talk to, like when I think of best ball, he's like maybe the number one name in the entire format of who I think about. He won Best Ball Mania 1 back in 2020. He writes for Establish the Run, among other places. You can find him on Twitter at Justin Herzig, and he's got some good stuff to say.
My name's Justin Herzig, and my best ball cheat code is a topic I recently discussed in my FF60 daily newsletter. Imagine you're in a draft deciding between Chris Olave and Rome Odunze. No strong lean, so you check rankings, ADP, they're neck and neck. Most people will take Odunze. Why? Because it opens the door to a Caleb Williams stack. That logic gets repeated across thousands of drafts, and the result? Odunze's ADP rises, Olave's falls. But here's the catch. ADP impacts rankings. So what started as a small stack preference snowballs into Olave appearing to be the significantly lesser option, even though the original difference had nothing to do with projection. And this keeps getting repeated as rankings adjust and Olave is compared to a new, lesser wide receiver. We're starting to see a real trend. Wide receivers and tight ends tethered to unstackable QBs are slipping. And it's not just poor QB play, as that's already baked into the projection. It's that these wide receivers don't fit neatly into the stacking plans of savvy drafters, so they get pushed down. If tomorrow Tyler Shuck was named the Saints starter, Olave would feel like a better click. Not because he'd be more productive, but because now he's stackable. This is a unique phenomenon for best ball where stacking is paramount to winning the big contests. And that's where I believe sharp drafters can find edge. Value pass catchers where stack logic is warping value. Presenting us with a group of wide receivers and tight ends that are being undervalued, but solid picks when you have alternative stack plans available. Already drafted an elite QB and not needing someone like Caleb? Maybe that's the time you rather draft Olave and look for a stackable QB for another pass catcher later. Here are the players I believe are most impacted by these unstackable QBs. On Cleveland, it's Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku. And on New Orleans, it's Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Best of luck in your drafts this summer.
So Herzig talked about undervalued wide receivers because of stacking issues. And this is something I feel like I've paid more attention to this year of what the common combinations are, especially for playing in a large field tournament, that because everybody knows they're supposed to be stacking, it creates its own systemic issues in best ball that we don't realize, that because people are taking Caleb with Odunze, it's actually causing a ripple effect of the other wide receivers in that area, and you kind of see players go in the same zones over and over and over again. But the best part is that he mentioned Chris Olave, which obviously I'm in again.
Yeah, this is a great call because actually when Justin sent this over to me, in that morning I had done a draft, and there was like a time where I was looking at Olave, and I forget who the wide receiver was, but in my head, I said to myself, I don't have a stack yet. I know I can get this quarterback later. I think it might have been Jordan Addison. I know I can get JJ McCarthy later. I'll take Addison. That way I can set up a stack. And if I'm doing that, and people are doing that subconsciously or maybe on purpose, but like whatever, that does cause this ripple down effect, like Justin talked about. So yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And this is one of those situations where you can definitely kind of leverage the field in terms of like players that are going to go where they go because the ADP says they should are going to be the ones that have those comfy stacking partners coming next. So I actually love this take quite a bit. And I was looking at my exposure before our podcast today, Kyle, and you'll be shocked to know that I am well over the field. Chris Olave, not scared off by quarterback play, although perhaps maybe I should be. What could go wrong for a third year in a row?
It's really fun. I mean, best ball is all about just looking at your roster and admiring it, knowing that you will totally forget which team was which team a couple months from now, and definitely like 5 or 6 months from now. But when you have Chris Olave as like your wide receiver, like 5 on a roster, it's like, oh man, I am crushing this team in the preseason. That's what matters. That's when Chris Olave has been on pretty much every single one of my redraft teams for the last couple of years. And yeah, you obviously win your league at the draft. So I've been doing that for years.
Clearly.
All right. Next one is from JJ Zacharyson. You may have heard of him before. LateRound.com. He also has a YouTube show called Becoming a Best Ball Bro, which bets. I believe you will be on that show soon.
I believe in 2 weeks.
All right. I was on his late round perspectives, and JJ and I, we think similarly. I like it a lot. Some people have accused me of talking like JJ on the podcast. Hey,
That's because you love to play this game in a spreadsheet. Don't watch the tape. Just get in the spreadsheets.
All right, here we go.
Hey guys, JJ here, and thanks for tuning in. It feels like I go in a lot of different directions with my favorite cheat code for 2025, but I'm going to focus on something that I've talked about on my podcast this offseason, and that's the sophomore quarterbacks. And by sophomore quarterbacks, I'm referring to Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, and maybe Michael Penix. Jane Daniels is of course part of that, but we know he's already him. My research has shown that year 2 quarterbacks are some of the best bets that you can make in fantasy football. When seeing how they performed against ADP expectation, or how many points we'd expect a player to score at a particular ADP, there's no better age group. Second-year quarterbacks picked between QB7 and QB18 have historically outpaced ADP by 2.3 standard points per game since 2014. No other age group has been above the 0.5 mark. It's not a massive sample of quarterbacks, but there's more to this too. All of these guys, aside from Michael Penix, can bring a lot to the table with their legs, so we know they're also getting boosted with some rushing production. And none of them are too costly that the opportunity cost is going to be super significant when you draft them. So I'm targeting the year 2 quarterbacks this year, and I think they'll be helpful in guiding drafters to the promised land.
So I don't know if you heard, he mentioned Drake May. Have you heard of him?
I'm in.
Okay. So you, JJ, just looking at the numbers and saying, hey, do this blindly, not even thinking, like, have you ever even seen Drake May play football before?
Yeah, he's really good at it. I love this call, especially because of the pocket of where these guys go. I think that there's a ton of upside in all of these players that JJ mentioned. Bo Nix, if he continues to run like he did last year, you get some new weapons there. Like, we cannot forget that, like, Bo Nix was targeting Lucas Kroll on a somewhat regular basis, and no disrespect to Lucas, but some of these short area targets are now going to go to, Evan Ingram, who I know is not a perfect player, but more juice than Lucas Kroll. RJ Harvey, obviously, out of the backfield. And so, yeah, I think you're just going to see so much more efficiency, yards after the catch type stuff this year from Nix. Caleb, it's not hard to paint the bull case on him with Ben Johnson there and the weapons. Drake May, I will go down with this ship this year, is the dude. And we've talked a lot about JJ McCarthy over this podcast, Dynasty, whatever. Like, I just believe in the system and these weapons so much that I am in on all of the guys that JJ mentioned here. I love this range of the draft.
It's just, they're easy bets to make. Not only the historical part that JJ brought up, but the ADPs are sitting there in a spot where it's just very easy to stack. And these are all teams that, like Minnesota, no matter who the quarterback is going to be top 6 in pass rate over expectation. That's what they've been. Drake May, you like where things are trending, and obviously you like the wheels. Caleb, hopefully he picks up the offense. And then Bo Nix was hyper efficient. And then even as a runner, I feel like we can get even more this year. So it's really easy to bet on these guys. Even Penix, I know, is not in this category, but he's at a spot now where he doesn't cost you the same thing, and nothing could go wrong with this team. So totally fine with that one. Next one is from Michael Leone, also from Establish the Run. On Twitter, he is at 2hats1mike. Leone is probably one of the people that you and I respect the most. We've used a lot of his data on the show over the years about different ways to stack, but also like, what do best ball drafters do? People that are early drafters, later drafters. A lot of his data ends up on our show, so we really respect him a lot. And here is his cheat code.
I'm Mike Leone with Establish the Run, bringing you my cheat code for the 2025 best ball season. And that is to take 3 mid-round QBs, bypass the elite quarterbacks, and focus on QBs with an ADP between QB 12 and 24. That kicks us off with Caleb Williams, goes all the way to Tua. I think this stretch of quarterbacks is extremely stackable. It allows you to take 3 of them, which gives you a great blend of floor and ceiling. You get the correlation week to week with how stackable these quarterbacks are. And many of the quarterbacks in this range can be stacked at various parts of the draft and are just undervalued because of recency bias. And we see that a lot with pocket passers. Some of the QBs in the top 10, I think, Bo Nix, Baker Mayfield may be a bit overvalued because of how well their touchdown rates and their efficiency was last year, stuff that is due to regress. Whereas quarterbacks like CJ Stroud, Tua, Dak Prescott, they're all seeing a discount because their performances in 2024 didn't go as expected. So I love these quarterbacks. Stroud in particular, you can stack him with Nico early. You've also got the 2 rookies in Noel and Jaden Higgins to give you upside late. Christian Kirk in the middle there to give you some stability. I love Tua with the Miami guys, Waddle and Tyreek Hill, 2 guys that could really break fantasy this year, given their ceiling potential in an offense that has shown elite passing efficiency and real concentrated volume in the past. So again, you've even got Jordan Love, very stackable, could bounce back, see an increase in pass rate for Green Bay. So I just love this stretch of quarterbacks, the ability to get 3, and it frees you up not to reach on your stacks when you start with so many wide receivers that will fit with these pairings and give you that flexibility, allow you to wait and take the ADP value while completing the stack.
I love it. I love it because this has kind of been my strategy this year. And I don't know if I've gone too far where I just haven't taken a ton of the elite quarterbacks, but because we've talked a lot about that middle range and guys that we've been taking shots on, even going back to what JJ said, there's just a lot of quarterbacks in this range that you can stack up. And I'm finding myself being okay with 3 quarterback builds, but even more, like I'm okay if I have quarterbacks in this range, if they fall behind ADP. Like I'm in a draft where Jordan Love, somebody we've talked about a lot, fell to pick 141. So, it was way further. I had Jaden Reed on my team. I wasn't planning on taking Jordan Love, but it was at a point then where I could say, well, am I going to take some backup running back or get my 3rd quarterback on an elite offense that I already like and know that I'm going to tack on Marshawn Lloyd?
Obviously. Yeah, no, we've been talking about this, it feels like all summer, right? Like this range just feels so right for quarterback, where especially when you get to wide receiver here, you get to running back, you can poke holes in almost every player that goes here and concerns about the player archetypes that go here. Meanwhile, the quarterbacks project incredibly well. And if you're mixing and matching 3 of these guys in this Caleb to, Tua-ish type range, like, sure, they're not going to be the odds-on favorite to beat Allen, Lamar, Jane Daniels in a given week. But like when you have 3 shots at the ceiling performance that you can get from these guys, you've got to feel pretty good about that. And Leone's done some incredible work in the manifesto the last couple of years looking at like advance rates and playoff advance rates and things like that. 3 stacked quarterbacks has done incredibly well basically every year when looking at some of the Best Ball Mania data on Underdog. So yes, 3 stacked quarterbacks in the mid rounds. I love it. That's been a huge strategy for me as well. I even think there's some quarterback archetypes here that, like if you got sniped on a 3rd guy and you didn't have him, like I feel like it's okay to have 2 in this range depending on who you're getting with the archetypes. But yes, I've been taking a ton in this range, and definitely as long as the ADP stay the way they are, I'm going to continue to do so.
All right, we're going to travel across the pond and talk to Tom Strachan of Fantasy Pros. He's at NFL_Tstrack, and his cheat code, along with another cheat code coming up, are going to be paired together because I feel like you and I are already on board with this. And I think we have an unhealthy amount of these players. So it's really nice to hear that we are on the same page.
Over the last few years, a subtle but important shift has happened in fantasy football. Rookie tight ends, they're now actually useful. For decades, the rule, it was simple. Don't draft rookie tight ends. And it made sense because from the year 2000 through 2022, 25 tight ends were taken in the first round, including 5 in the top 10. And only one of those top 10 picks finished as a top 12 tight end in PPR as a rookie, Kyle Pitts. So the old advice, it did make sense until recently. Then came 2023, Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta. Kincaid finished the year as tight end 14, but was a tight end 9 from week 7 onwards. He had 91 targets. His only shortfall for fantasy was just 2 touchdowns. Sam Laporta, though, absolutely exploded. 86 receptions, which was a rookie record at the time, 889 yards and 9 touchdowns, more than any other tight end that year. But those records, they weren't going to stand for long. Enter Brock Bowers. Bowers posted an outrageous 112 receptions and 150 targets, both historic marks for a rookie tight end. And now, in 2025, we've got another major milestone. 2 tight ends who were drafted inside the top 15 picks for the first time in over 30 years. Tyler Warren, he joins a fast-paced offense. The Colts do want to play fast, and he could benefit if the team limits goal line QB runs, which have been costly to Anthony Richardson, and Daniel Jones doesn't exactly hold up well. Beat reporters absolutely love him, and a few red zone scores could easily vault him into high-end, tight-end relevance. Colston Loveland, drafted 10th overall by the Bears, clearly a priority for him in the draft. With Ben Johnson as a play caller who schemed up Laporta's breakout, it's really easy to imagine Loveland in motion, creating mismatches and seeing high-value touches in an offense which, let's be fair, completely lacks proven touchdown scorers. So Warren, Loveland, they're this year's tight end cheat codes for best ball. They have elite draft capital, real opportunity, and in my eyes, they're being undervalued. Don't ignore the trend, but rookie tight ends, they're starting to deliver.
I mean, I don't know if you heard on the League Winners episode a couple of weeks ago. Mine was Tyler Warren. Yours is Colston Loveland. So we are right there with T-Strack.
You must have listened to the show. I love it. Yeah, man. The thing about this that I mentioned on that show that I think makes a lot of sense, especially on Underdog, right? If you just put wide receiver next to these guys' names, no matter what you think about the play caller and the team or whatever, like they're going 4 rounds earlier. So because we get the 10th overall and the 14th overall pick at a value relative to the ADP landscape, I'm taking shots here and just hoping they're that good, basically, is what it comes down to. Am I concerned about the target competition for Colston Loveland? Yeah, sure. Am I concerned about Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson completing a single pass in the year 2025? Yeah, of course. I mean, I've seen the training camp highlights already, but their ADPs are not as high as they should be, in my opinion, for the upside.
All right, Connor Allen of 4for4 Fantasy. I believe you were on a show recently with him doing some drafting, has a similar cheat code.
One of my favorite best ball cheat codes for 2025 is drafting Colts rookie tight end Tyler Warren. He's going in the 10th to 11th round, right in that sweet spot where you're chasing upside at tight end, and there's a lot to like. Colts specifically targeted him in the draft, and he's already getting design touches in camp and reportedly seeing a lot of looks in motion, backfield work, and maybe even some goal line packages. It wouldn't be surprising at all because he was a major difference maker at Penn State. His final year, he put up 104 receptions, 1,200 yards, 8 receiving touchdowns, plus another 220 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns on 26 carries, finishing with nearly 1,500 total yards and 12 touchdowns from scrimmage. He also lined the ball over the field at Penn State, 40-plus snaps out wide, in line, in the slot, at quarterback, and even at running back. I think that level of versatility gives the Colts plenty of ways to manufacture touches in addition to using him as a weapon and a traditional tight end. The setup is solid as well. Daniel Jones is an upgrade from Anthony Richardson in terms of short to intermediate passing and executing Shane Steichen's offense. And I think he is the quarterback who can support a productive tight end. Right now we're looking at target competition of Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and Alec Pierce. I think that there's a legitimate chance that Tyler Warren ends up being the second or third option in terms of receiving target share in this offense. And if you mix in some of the manufactured touches, the upside is massive. So you're getting him in the 10th to 11th rounds. And if you're waiting on a tight end or want a tight end too with legitimate spike week upside, Tyler Warren is your cheat code guy.
Can I flex on you, Betz, and tell you that he's my highest rostered tight end?
I don't know what that means, but sure. I don't know why that's flexing on me, but yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
I just wanted to say that, me and Connor are just, right there together. We're seeing the cheat codes from a different angle, but we're there together. I mean, Tyler Warren, I don't know if you've heard of him. He played at Penn State. Was a pretty good college player.
I hear. Tyler Warren is an absolute monster. Well, the one thing with Warren that I don't think a lot of people are connecting the dots a ton with is the Shane Steichen, scheme and usage of a player in the middle of the field. They have not had that since he's been in Indianapolis. Now, you need to go back to Philly in 2021 and 2022. Dallas Goedert in 15 games in 2021, 830 yards that season, just 4 touchdowns, but over 800 yards. And then the year after in 12 games, 702 yards. So look, if we get a full season of Tyler Warren, and I think Warren's a better player than Dallas Goedert, and let's just say they get competent quarterback play from these two hooligans, Tyler Warren, in hindsight, this could look silly that we're like, man, we really were letting Tyler Warren go. Sometimes, like on DraftKings, people hate rookies, so he'll fall to like 125 sometimes, and it's like, man, that's kind of an auto click for me right now if he falls that far. So yeah, rookie tight ends, Warren, Loveland, love them both.
It's funny where their ADPs started after the NFL draft, where Warren was going ahead. Then there's this period of the month of May where it was Colston Loveland and Warren dropped a ton. And then it switched mid-June, and now we're at the spot where Warren is the tight end 9 and Loveland's down there at tight end 12. And part of that was the injury news with Loveland, like we were kind of, in that season. But both of them just seem like awesome picks. I'm at the point now where I'm trying to now find reasons why I shouldn't make Tyler Warren like my guy this year, and I need to do that, or else I'm too far in, and I'm going to get blinded. So
go all in, brother. Just do it.
Okay, let me put it this way. What is the upside for them in terms of touchdowns? Because I can project the target shares. I can see how they can function the offense. But on Underdog, I need touchdowns. And so in the Colts offense, what is Tyler Warren's upside for touchdowns?
It's a hard thing to answer for him specifically because I think he's I feel like 90% of best ball and fantasy in general winning is contingency situations that play out that you couldn't have pictured happening. Or sometimes you can, but if, let's just say Jonathan Taylor gets injured and it's Daniel Jones back there, I think the likelihood that we see manufactured touches for him around the goal line is way higher. If Jonathan Taylor is healthy, he's probably getting those. If Anthony Richardson is the quarterback in a certain week, he's probably getting some of those. But you have that baked into the potential upside case for Warren as well. So it's kind of hard to answer, but I don't know. Putting a number on it, best case scenario, 8?
8 was my number. 8 total is where I'm going. 8 total touchdowns if he runs in a few. And then with Loveland, if the offense clicks, if let's say Caleb throws 28 touchdowns. I feel like 30 is really asking a lot of him. But if he throws 28 touchdowns, I think Loveland could get up to the 7-8 range.
Seems fair.
Okay, that's what I need. I want these guys to do that, and I think they can. And at their price, I think it's a good bet. Let's take a quick break, and then we have a few more.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature, whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes. Nature makes all of our lives, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today.
Next up is going to be Eric Beim4 of Spike Week. You can follow him on Twitter at Eric Beim4. And his cheat code, I feel like, is one of those that we want to be able to embrace. And I think we're going to have a good discussion afterwards.
What's up, guys? Eric from Spike Week here. And my 2025 best ball cheat code is chaos. Chaos is a weird cheat code, but it is ultimately the thing that decides every single fantasy football season. We spend all summer, all year micro-analyzing every single situation, target shares, backfield depth charts, pass rates, quarterback play, coaching tendencies, and everything. And that matters. But what plays out every single season is injuries, unpredictable performances by players, spike weeks at the right time, spike weeks at the wrong time, all sorts of chaos. Of course, injuries are naturally the thing that unfortunately are part of the game of football and the game of fantasy football, but chaos plays out in many different ways. Oftentimes, the situations that we want to target the most are the situations that are the most unclear while we're drafting. Ambiguous backfields, rookies with unclear roles, rookies with draft capital that maybe didn't quite check the box that we were hoping for, but they have a veteran in front of them that we don't love. All the different situations that the market is holding back the price on players because they are unclear, they are murky, they are contingent value bets. All of that is the chaos that we don't want to run from. The natural tendency is to run from it. We want to run into that chaos because that's what breeds the league winners, the rookie breakouts, the backup running backs, even the Ricky Pearsalls of the world who take forever for a season to play out in their favor from a chaos perspective, and it happens at the right time in best ball. Those are the bets that we want to make. Those are the best ball cheat codes.
See, the problem about Eric's cheat code is that it actually cost me a lot of money last year when Ricky Pearsall went off.
Just drop kicked you in week 17. This is, if you've ever listened to Eric's content, this is so Eric. I love it. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a part of me that loves to try to predict the NFL. But as I've said on the show, especially over the last year, it's a very silly thing to think that you're able to do it. We just cannot do that. You don't know what's going to happen. We might know what's going to happen in week 1. We don't know what's going to happen in week 5, 10, 17, right? Like, there's so much uncertainty right now. And in hindsight, it will look very obvious and clear. It does every year, but there's so much that you don't know. I was actually looking back at last year's ADP landscape just to kind of like jog my memory of what was the situation like. And some of these ADPs are just hilarious in hindsight. And as I just said with the Warren example, like so much of this game that we're talking about is won with things that happen that you didn't realize and you got insane value on a certain player. And these ambiguous situations are a perfect one to kind of look at. I mean, there's going to be coaching changes this year. There's going to be unfortunate injuries that happen. Like, you just cannot predict things that are going to happen in the NFL, which is why I've kind of come around to the idea more that we're drafting, like a certain team in one draft that you think could have a chance to win, not exposures. So it only takes one share of Ricky Pearsall last year to be what you needed. If you had 3% and that happened to be on the team that got to the final, you probably did very well. If you faded Ricky Pearsall all year in your exposures, it felt great when you got to week 12, right? But here he comes down the stretch. So yeah, chaos happens every year. It definitely, I think, is a good thing to think about when you're on the clock, especially when you're trying to ask yourself, what type of bet am I making here at this pick? And there's a lot of places in the draft right now where there is a ton of uncertainty. The rookie tight ends we just talked about, the Jaguars running back room, right? Like stuff like that. It's all over the board at ADP landscape. Definitely embrace it. And hopefully on the right teams, you're rewarded.
I think about this a lot with late season, like the potential for certain pass catchers at the end of the season when their team has basically said, screw this, we're building towards this next year. Like, I think of the Saints, I think of the Browns as teams that the expectations are already low. And I'm assuming that next year they will have a completely different quarterback for those rooms. And so the last month of the season is going to be a lot of garbage time stuff. We saw that last year with DTR and Jerry Jeudy, where he targets him 18 times in a game. And Jerry Jeudy was on my roster in that one where I lost to Ricky Pearsall, but I wasn't counting on Jeudy and thinking about him in terms of like late season upside. Just thought like, oh, maybe he's a good pick at his ADP, but the Browns kind of morphed into this team where they just fed him. With the Saints, the player that I think about that a lot is Juwan Johnson because he's free. Last year, he led the team in slot routes and slot receptions. That was hard to say. And Kellen Moore usually brings over a heavy emphasis on targeting the slot. So at the end of the year, the roster might look different. They might be building towards the next year. And yet the chaos that I'm building in is that this is a guy who has the potential to be, like, would it shock you, apart from Alvin Kamara seeing his normal 80, 90 targets, that he would be behind only Olave in targets on that team?
Wouldn't be shocked, no.
Yeah. He's definitely one of my favorite players to just embrace that, especially the end of my draft and that things just go crazy. So you are going to go first and give your cheat code. The people are waiting.
All right. Buckle up. So this kind of piggybacks a little bit on Eric's point of chaos, uncertainty, ambiguous situations. And I feel like in best ball, we talk about it every offseason. Who are the ambiguous running back rooms to target? Last year was a lot of the Bengals stuff. This year you've got maybe the Giants, you've got the Cowboys, you got the Jaguars, a couple other teams. But nobody really talks about like the ambiguous wide receiver rooms enough. And I feel like if you can hit on a couple of the pieces in those ambiguous rooms, but also stack them correctly, which don't get me wrong, it's not easy to do. That's why they go where they go. You could have a massive payout in terms of hitting on a quarterback, hitting on a stack, and being undervalued for where they should go. And I went back and I looked at right now, based off of average team totals from weeks 1 to 17, I only included teams in this list that were in the top 16. So in other words, the market expects these teams to perform either at or above expectation relative to the league. They are the Chicago Bears, 16th in average team total. The Green Bay Packers, 12th in average team total. The Chargers are 14th. And then you've got the Niners at 8th in average team total. Yet, in Chicago, we think it's DJ Moore as the wide receiver 1, but I don't know. What if Colson Loveland is him, right? What if Luther Burden down the stretch emerges and he's awesome? So that's a situation I'm definitely targeting. For the Packers, there's a lot of debate. Is it Reed? Is it Golden? Nobody really wants Romeo Doubs, right? Like, there's just so much upside if they just have to pass more this year. What if Jaden Reed plays in 2 wide receiver sets for the first time? I think it's kind of unlikely, but it's not a zero, right? Like, there's upside there. For the Chargers, Mike Williams retiring makes it a little more clear, but the Trey Harris versus Quentin Johnston discussion is pretty interesting. Obviously, we know Ladd is the guy at the top, and at tight end, no one knows, right? Hopefully we get that information soon, but nobody knows at tight end. And I also think real quick on the Chargers, there's kind of some hidden upside in the pass catchers and in Justin Herbert with the Najee injury. Like, if they only have one healthy running back to start the season, do they stay as run heavy as people think they're going to be? I'm not sure. I think it might push into Justin Herbert more. And then for the Niners, the wide receiver room right now feels like a complete mess behind George Kittle with Juwan Jennings and the Pearsall hamstring injury and Ayuk with the ACL. Nobody knows when he'll be back. This uncertainty keeps all of these ADPs on these teams that the market is telling us is going to be good. They're keeping them in check. And I think if you can hit on these stacks, again, it's not easy to do. It's not easy to predict, but across a portfolio, if you're overweight these teams and these groups and these stacks, I think hopefully at the end of the year, you'll be happy. So that is my cheat code, the undervalued ambiguous wide receiver rooms this year.
I'm also thinking about where you are stacking and like the quarterbacks that are attached to these teams, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, who I can't stop talking about. And then even with the 49ers, who we've basically talked about almost every episode as well, with Brock Purdy being a relative value, you're just able to look at these situations. And then when you look at your roster, you go, that's not even my primary stack. It's like that's not like if you're going elite quarterback, you're not getting any, like you're not having to pay that price. But then when you look at this range, I just love thinking about teams that I can be overweight the field and they're scared. And because they're scared, some of the ADPs just keep falling. And that team becomes like a superpower for my best ball team. And yet I have all these other studs on my roster that I was counting on. Like, that's what's so great about the Chargers is I'm taking Justin Herbert, and maybe I took a Marion Hampton or Ladd early, but throw on Trey Harris or Quentin Johnston later, and I feel like I have a wide receiver room that is going to help my team, and yet they weren't my primary stack.
Yep, I think that's a great way to put it, especially because where they go, you're not really counting on them to be the best offense in the league. I mean, hopefully they are if you take them, but because their ADPs are depressed, you're not really counting on them the way that you would be if you had to spend your first, second, and fourth round picks to get the Joe Burrow stack, right? So it's just way cheaper, and hopefully there's some upside. And that's what the scoring markets are telling us, so we'll see.
All right, next up is some guy named Kyle Borganoni. He's going to give his cheat codes. He sometimes talks on a podcast every once in a while. It is funny when I tell people what I do. They're like, what do you talk about all the time? Well, best ball cheat codes. And here's my cheat code. It's called Rescuing Running Backs from the Grave, which is a pretty good title. Last year, mine was Get Those Tight Ends in Shape. So
how'd that work out?
I don't remember. I probably said something about Trey McBride and Mark Andrews. Let's be honest.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so rescuing running backs from the grave. With running backs crushing last year, like essentially if you had Saquon, Derrick Henry, they were essential to best ball last year. And they were essential to flip the ADP landscape of what we said earlier. Like, are these wide receivers really what we need here? Look at all the values at running back. This year's ADP obviously reflects what they did last year. There are 10 running backs being drafted in the first round. That's something we haven't seen since 2022. And one of the best ways to realize the ADP landscape at the running back position is to zoom out and see if these trends compare year over year. The running backs that are selected from RB10 to RB35 are all going around higher than they did last year. So you think about that range of running backs that you're drafting right now, RB10 to RB35, they're all going about 12, or some of them are going 20 spots higher right now. The RB13 and 14 are going 20 spots higher than they did before. So you're having to pay up for running backs. In other words, there's this shift and it's affecting a ton of running backs. And yet, not every single tier of running back is being affected the way that all of the other guys were. So I mentioned running backs 10 through 35 all being shifted up. If you move past there and you get to RB36, or I'm going to start looking at RB40, there's actually a drop-off historically of where we have been drafting these running backs. So when you look at who's in this range, people aren't going to think this is crazy because I've been saying it a lot. It's a lot of the running backs that are year two guys that are being left for dead, but they're on good offenses. And that's what I've been pounding the table for the most, is that I want as many shots as possible of second-year running backs that are left for dead, and yet ADP-wise, historically, they're going later than ever before. They shouldn't be. Usually if you know somebody is the backup, or you think they're the backup, then they should be going in the 130s, 140s, and these guys just aren't. So Trey Benson is one of the guys that I've talked about the most. He's one of my most drafted running backs. The Cardinals have the 9th highest team implied total in all of the NFL. And Jonathan Gannon has actually talked a little bit differently this year, that he would like to use a little bit more of a two-back approach. James Conner's still going to be the lead, but you know that there's contingent upside with Trey Benson, and he's being drafted later than he was last year. Ray Davis is another player that you should have a lot of exposure to. As somebody who was fine as a rookie, but didn't really stand out, the Bills have the highest team implied total. They rank second in points per game and third in EPA per rush this past year. He is also way too cheap. Marshawn Lloyd is with a team that we know for a fact is going to be a good offense. They have, under Jordan Love, been a top 10 offense for the last couple of years. They have the 12th highest team implied total. Will Shipley is somebody that you've talked about a lot, Betz. And Jalen Wright is another guy that I've been taking a lot of. So this core of running backs is going later than they ever have, and yet there's upside where traditionally the zero RB approach is what drove these prices. It's actually pushing it down this year.
Yeah, it feels like a really good opportunity this year. And I'm not saying don't draft running backs, but to just be selective in your builds and mix in some zero RB teams. Because what if chaos happens this year and last year was a fluke? Maybe that happens, right? And I also think too, on top of that, we as a market in terms of best ball drafters are not very good at pricing backup running backs. No disrespect to Zach Charbonnet, but he goes at 115 overall. And we've seen Charbonnet when Walker is out be great. So I think that's why he's taxed up. But is Ken Walker more likely to miss a ton of time than, I don't know, Bijan Robinson, and Tyler Algier goes, 30 spots later, more than 30 spots later. So these are all kind of the same bet,
yes,
but they're cheaper than they should be, is basically the point that you're making. Whereas previously they were a round or two more expensive. And I agree with you. When you get to this part of the draft, it's man, these wide receivers are not great. The tight ends, you kind of have to talk yourself into. You can clearly see a path. If the starter misses time, the running backs that go here are going to crush. And that's always been the thought process kind of behind some of these zero RB type builds. Embracing chaos. What if the bell cows happen to get hurt this year? Craziness could happen, right? It's just, ADP is so reflective of what happened the previous year, and the NFL almost never goes that way.
And with this cheat code, to me, it feels good that I'm not giving a player take here. I'm more looking at the landscape and then betting on a type of running back. So if I don't get Trey Benson on a team, I'm not oh no, this strategy isn't going to work. I'm more betting on these players on good offenses, and it gives you a bunch of different players to queue up. And I'm queuing up a ton of them right now in my drafts. And some of them I might have 2 on a team, but I'm not going overweight as I'm only drafting these guys. Hear me out. I'm not just drafting Benson, Ray Davis, and Marshawn Lloyd on the same team, but I want a collective approach, as we did on this Best Ball Cheat Codes episode. I feel enlightened. I also feel like we came up with ours on our own. You and I look at people in the industry, but also, I'm the annoying one that like pushes back on stuff all the time for you. And the quarterback one, just to close the episode, that's felt really good to hear from the smart people in the industry to say, hey, this tier of quarterback is really undervalued. Like that was my favorite takeaway.
I mean, confirm your priors with other smart people. That's what this is all about, which is why, when we're seeing some highlights in camp, they only matter if they confirm my priors. And if they don't, then they don't matter.
I'm only posting really good things for the players that I like. And Bijan looks great in shorts, by the way. He's doing great. Doing great things. All right, Betz, sign us off.
Yes, sir. Thank you to all of our guests for joining us. Awesome episode. Love doing this every year, getting some insight from some of the best minds in the industry. Hopefully you guys also enjoyed it. We're back next week for more Best Ball Takes. And hopefully Kyle gives us some insights on if Kyle Pitts is actually running as a wide receiver or a tight end. We'll find out soon. See you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
This season, let your shoes do the talking. Designer Shoe Warehouse is packed with fresh styles that speak to your whole vibe without saying a word. From cool sneakers that look good with everything, to easy sandals you'll want to wear on repeat, DSW has you covered. Find a shoe for every you, from the brands you love, like Birkenstock, Nike, Adidas, New Balance, and more. Head to your DSW store or visit DSW.com today.